So we went from 100 orders a day to 2,000 orders in a day and a half. And that was like insane volume. Like I was not set up for that.
Priscilla and I from Bangn Body went into her exact game plan in terms of how she's able to grow her company to the point now where it generates one sale and it sells one bottle of her product every second.
I was really all about like the scrappy micro. I wanted high engagement. So if it was friends of family, whatever, people following these micros, if they're sharing the love about the product, see it's working, well then that's going to have a greater cut through in that moment.
And in this podcast, we unpack the specifics of how she was able to bring this product to market after investing over $80,000 and losing that $80,000 to the wrong supplier.
With me, anyone that knows me, I never settle. I'm a perfectionist. If it does not work, it's not going into market. They just weren't at the caliber. And then from that moment, I had to make a very strong decision that we were going to go back to the drawing board.
From that point, she's built a thriving community of evangelical customers that absolutely love her product.
We always set that expectation very early on that we were a community brand. We did a huge Galentine's Day event. It was ticketed, had over 700 people at this event. It was the most incredible thing.
Priscilla.
Yes.
You went from saving for a house deposit, saved $100,000, and then took that money, rather than purchasing a house, you poured it into the business that you didn't even know if the product was going to sell. You had an $80,000 investment to a manufacturer or supplier that didn't work out. How did you make that big bet on yourself?
Yeah, I think just going through my personal skin journey throughout 15 years with all the struggles, I think at that point there was no other option. It was either do something about it or feel sorry for myself. What felt like forever. And I think I was just so grateful at the time that my husband was now husband, not then, but he was incredibly supportive and he had gone through my skin journey with me since I was 14. And so I think having his support and backup, I think that just made me feel like I could do it. Like I could reach the stars knowing that he could catch me if I fell. And I think with that, going into it wholeheartedly, like there was no other option. Like moved back with my mum, was still in my corporate job for 3 years while we were formulating and conceptualizing the brand. And then from there, you know, we made this decision to invest every last cent of our savings that we poured into 4 years of hard work. And then from there, you know, committing and then going, okay, we need to find manufacturers. So, you know, you did all the research, all the calls, found a manufacturer who I thought at the time was capable for the desire that I wanted to create. With me, anyone that knows me, I'm very particular. I never settle. I'm a perfectionist. And when it comes to my skin, if it does not work, it's not going into market. And so I shared this with them. And then it just got to the point where I think they just weren't at the caliber or the experience within the natural performance space that I think really kind of deterred the trajectory of where I wanted the product to go. And then from that moment, I had to make a very quick and like strong decision that we were going to go back to the drawing board. So that's when I called my partner that day and was like, we're starting again. And he was like, wait.
Did you question like, should I?
No.
You didn't at all?
No.
Like it wasn't even a slightest like
no,
thought or
it
doubt?
wasn't even like oh shit, like should I do this? Like all of our savings is just pretty much going to go down the drain. No, I did not have like an ounce of uncertainty about the decision. I was like, it's either we do it right or we don't do it at all. So I could have just gone, okay, it didn't work, go back to my corporate job, had a good career there, all good. Or if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to make sure it works and I'm going to make sure it's different. And I'm going to make sure it's going to help heal my skin first and foremost. And so that's why I just wasn't good enough. And then we went to the next one.
How do you think, you know, founders that are starting up could learn from that kind of mindset? Because what I find is a lot of people, they have a lot of doubts about themselves and their abilities, or, you know, is my product good enough and all those types of things. So I listen to your perspective and you have like a really strong, gritty, like F you, I'm going to die on the hill kind of approach towards, you know, doing it. So what do you think would be perhaps like some aspects of that you could share with perhaps founders that are like, oh, just don't know if my product's going to sell, or geez, this is my second iteration of suppliers, and I'm still not happy with it. Like, what would be some key things that you think might be helpful?
I think that's probably like not like a bad attitude to have. I think if you think that your product is perfect after one sample or one like try, you haven't got enough feedback. I think it's always the customer in mind first and foremost, and the outcome in mind. At the beginning, it's like, what are you trying to achieve? And for me, it was trying to help heal and make my skin better, which I never had before. You know, I was the customer that spent thousands of dollars trying any product that marketed that, could heal, you know, acne, or could calm, you know, breakouts, or could, you know, transform your skin. I bought into that marketing because I just wanted to fix my skin. So the vulnerability of that, I think I understand, you know, I understood all too well. And from that point, I just wanted to make sure that, I was not settling just to add to the saturation. So I think if you're feeling self-doubt or uncertainty, it's all about feedback. Share your product with people that is your demo. You know, not necessarily friends and family. That might not be your demo. You know, go out there.
We love you. This is amazing.
That's great. Like, support is amazing. But who is your customer? And go out and get genuine feedback from them to then help you steer the path forward. And if I wasn't the consumer, like if I wasn't the person that I was supplying the product for, then I would have gone out and made sure that I was able to get that genuine feedback from people who could, or I wanted to buy my product. And I've still obviously got 3 years worth of feedback through the journeys of, you know, formulation, manufacturing, sampling. You know, I did all that as well. But because I'm such a strong, picky person and my skin was dire straight at that point, I knew that if it was going to help me, then hopefully it was going to help others.
Right.
So never.
Do you think it's possible for people to have that same level of drive and grit if they maybe aren't their own customer? If that makes sense, like you were solving the problem for yourself, so you had this next level like drive where it was like, look, at the end of the day, if I spend 80 grand or 100 grand and I just at least fix my problem, I'll be stoked. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that it's possible to potentially have that same drive if it's like, perhaps I just want to make some money from customers? You know what I mean?
That's never going to work. It's not going to last long if your driver is solely around money. That's not going to be enough. Because you're going to go through some pretty hard times and challenging and uncertain times, that the only thing that will get you through is purpose and the passion behind the purpose that's going to drive you to those goals. So I think it's interesting because, you know, I feel like there was a lot of people that we speak to and, you know, they've created businesses, but it's not necessarily for them, but it is for their wives or for their kids. So there's a level of purpose and there's a level of care outside of, I just want to start a business. You know, people might think it's cool if I start a business, or I might think I'll be cooler if I start a business, and it'll be great to make money and be free and sip a pina colada on the beach. That just is so far-fetched from the reality of business. But I think that's also not what's going to, you know, give you the pathway as well. You'll get unstuck very quickly without having purpose.
Go into that for a second. What do you think, from your experience, if you were to kind of like double click on some of the opposites of sipping pina coladas on the beach? What's the real? You know what I mean? From your experience, just maybe a couple of key highlights of like, it's not pina coladas, but in fact it is X, Y, and Z. What does that look like?
It's long days, long nights, early mornings. It's nonstop. There is no brain break, if that makes sense. You know, people who embrace the 9 to 5 to have their 4 weeks annual leave, have their weekends, switch off. They leave the office, they're done and dusted, and they can have a brain break. Business owners never have a brain break. We are always on, no matter where we are in the world, no matter what we're doing, we're always thinking about our businesses, our customers, what went wrong the other day, what went right the other day, how can we double down on that? How do we take a screenshot, a snapshot of like a great month? How do we learn from a shitty month? Like it doesn't end, but you got to love it. I've always said, you got to be one with the hamster wheel or else it's going to kill you.
Become one with the hamster wheel. But it's so true. I recall when I first started my first e-commerce business 7 years ago or something like that. Started making money online, and I was like, versus like I was like in construction, working like on the tools, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I'm like, I got the thing that I wanted, which was like making money independently from location. But then I also got the thing that I didn't expect, which was all the continued thought debt that goes into what's happening at this time of day. Oh my God, I can actually work at like 11 p.m. at night. So that means I should. You know, my brain's constantly ticking over versus on the construction site, you put the tools down, you walk away and you feel like you've done.
Yeah.
But this is like, it's a constant.
Yeah, exactly. And just on that, it's acceptable to be done at 3 o'clock as
Very
a chippy,
true.
right?
Very
it's
true.
not, we make up these own rules, but for some reason we say to ourselves, it's not acceptable if you're not working until 2 a.m.
And you feel guilty if you don't.
And you feel guilty if you're not literally got your laptop on your lap while you're falling asleep at nighttime.
Yeah.
But it's the love. You know, if you don't have the love, it's never going to work. You know, if you don't thrive business and learning the best parts of yourself, like in the, I would say 6 years that Bangn has been alive, like in the world, but 3 years prior to that, I was working on it. So we'll say close to 10 years that I've been in this space. I've learned more about myself than in the 32 years of my life. And probably as I get older, I'll say the exact same thing because it pushes you in situations that you never thought that you would be in, good and bad. So yeah, I think I said, you know, I say to people, it's not for the faint-hearted, you know. And,
I love the quote, business is personal development wrapped in capitalism.
Yeah, very, very
like
true.
You learn so much about yourself, and the more you learn about yourself, you make more money. And it's wow, isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, and sometimes you got to surrender.
Talk to me about the Daily Mail. You kind of had this situation where you were going from a couple of hundred, maybe 100 orders a day, thereabouts when you just launched. And then you had this like press release situation that you didn't know about, and then it just kind of exploded your business. What happened in that situation?
Yeah, explosion is a good word to say because it just took us to a whole new level. Like at the time that I started the business, I had the day of launch, I resigned from my corporate job and my husband now was still in he was a carpenter, you know, as a foreman in commercial construction. So he stayed, obviously worked for 2 years still while I was building up the brand, and we were just still putting cash into the business because obviously we had savings which went into all the formulation and development. Then we obviously need money to market. Not that we did any paid advertising at that time, but it was gifting a lot of product. It was, you know, email marketing. It was all that kind of stuff. And so I guess trying to navigate all of that. So sorry, I just blanked
You're fine.
on the question.
Daily Mail exploded your business. No, you're fine. All good.
I was like, I better check that or else I'll just go on a tangent. So Daily Mail. So then I guess at that time we were funneling money still into the business. Like I would say the business was profitable. We had customers in, you know, straight up. But in terms of an influx of cash flow to just kind of double down and go a bit more intentionally, that's what Daily Mail did for us. And so we went from a couple of 100 orders a day to 2,000 orders in I think a day and a half, and that was like insane volume. Like I was not set up for that. Like packing from my mum's living room floor. You know, calling my manufacturer saying, do I have to shut the website down? And they're saying, absolutely not. Like, we've got another shipment for you, but we'll keep making for you. Like, they just had our backs. And then I could get friends and family, like, on rotation to come and help me pack. Whoever was willing, I was grateful.
Grab them off the street.
Literally at that point, people that I just had met, and they're like, oh, if you need a hand. I was like, I actually need a hand. And they were coming to my mum's house to help me pack.
I didn't think she would actually say yes to this. Like, I'll say, I'll lend a hand. And it's like, no, come with me.
I was like, don't say it because I literally, I was not sleeping. I think I didn't sleep for like 3 days.
God.
It was just around the clock.
Wow.
And that just really kind of leveled up the business. I think I got the brand name out there. You know, the yellow tube was circulating on Instagram where the brand was born. It was just every touch point, that analogy of, you know, be everywhere all the time, all at once. And we were. And I think that just took us to a whole new realm. Do
you think that press releases, like things of that nature, like say for example, someone's in the stage where they're like launching their brand and they're like, I've just pushed things live. I'm going to go and get press releases because I want to grow the company. Like, do you think it's a useful mechanism if you were to reshoot or kind of like take that kind of issue again? Would you do the same thing? Would you go and pay for press releases, or do you think it's like maybe money would be better spent elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I actually aligned with a freelance PR person a year before I actually launched because I thought I was going to launch sooner, and then I kept pushing the launch date back because things weren't ready, but I was still paying her fee and I was still working with her to the point where she thought I was a hoax because she's like, do you even have a product? Like, are you just, or she thought it was an old boss like trying to do something dirty with her.
Yeah.
And no, I said, I promise I've got a product, like this is the
Coming
brand,
soon,
it's coming soon. But you know what, during that time we bounded together and we actually came up with a really strong plan for when we did have a product, what would that look like, by gifting people and the shareability of the gifting and then aligning the PR to the people that were sharing, like influencers. Then, PR and media picked that up, and then they were pushing I guess the people that were using our products, as well as just product placement in magazines, because back then digital was on the back foot. It was magazines. And so we got big one-page placements for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of the PR up until this, like even till now, has all been free. It's just been based on that retainer, I guess, that I paid a year before I didn't even have a product. Yeah. But I would probably do it again. Like, I don't know. I think it's a very interesting situation. I think now it's a lot more noisy and the cut through probably wouldn't be as great. But there is a balance to having that, offline connection to online, to media publications, pushing the brand level of credibility. I don't think it has the pull it once had back in the day. Yeah. But I think it's just the right time. So if you got, if an influencer posted your product and they were in the media and you went to a media outlet and said they just used their product for, I don't know, their new bump, they've announced their pregnancy, they're using our product for this is the video, you might get a free article out of that. So I think it's just being a bit creative and savvy
with it. Yeah. One thing that you mentioned yesterday was you kind of like gifted, was it the first like shipment?
Yeah.
Of all of your products?
It's like 500 tubes.
Gifted. Talk to me about the psychology behind that, because I see founders get into that stage where they have, I'm not sure, their first MOQ, maybe there is 100, maybe there is 500, and they gift like 4. And they're like, they're not really
Something's not working.
I'm not getting any content back from people.
Yeah, no, like, you've got to send 100 to get maybe 10 responses out of that. But I think at the time as well, where Instagram was super new, we had the yellow tube. I was building relationships in the background before I even had a product to micro influencers and creators. I wasn't looking at the macros because I was just if we could work with them, what would that look like? And if I could give, what would that look like? But I was really all about the scrappy micro, real people who had family and friends support them, or it was just, I wanted high engagement. So if it was friends of family, whatever, friends of friends, people following these micros and just a few random people, if they're sharing the love about the product because they genuinely see it's working, well then that's going to have a greater cut through in that moment than potentially sending it to a macro at that time who doesn't know the brand, hasn't seen any circulation, might be good for brand awareness, but then there's going to be a lot of skepticism. So I took the other approach.
So you went small and then kind of graduated up.
Small, but the small created the noise to get the attention of the big. And then when the big started pushing, there was already a lot of traction in that. So it was just like that extra layer. So it was really strategic. And I think at that point we were just gifting to anyone that had even a smallest following. It was just, as we got bigger and as we could send out more, then we could obviously raise the followership up to be okay, we'll send it to 5,000 or more. We could just be more strategic. Sure. But it's all about building relationships, and we wanted genuine feedback. So we literally said, hey, would absolutely love for you to try the product. Absolutely no pressure in posting. Want you to love it. Any feedback you have, would really appreciate it.
So it's almost like a market research approach. You were like, hey, I'd love you just to test this and let me know what you think.
And then people love that because it's no objective. There's no deliverable from their part. Yeah. Exactly. So I think that really helped build that genuine, oh wow, I love this brand. I love this product. I love that it works. I'm going to share that, really authentically to my community. Don't ever underestimate the power of gifting, even to today.
What's one question that just comes to mind is what would you say the most wild, outrageous, crazy result is that you've heard from one of your customers? I mean, you probably had so many over
result
the years.
As in a before and after.
Yeah.
There was this beautiful woman who sadly got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had to go through an enormous amount of radiation. So she had a lot of burns, a lot of radiation burns, on her breast and under her arm and towards her stomach. And she used her product during chemo. And then obviously when the radiation, she was signed off by her doctor to be able to use it. And within a month or so, it started to improve. And then now we have a before and after on our website. I think it was after 3 months of use. Pretty much you would not even notice that she ever had any radiation burns. And so from that, I think and we obviously have supported the National Breast Cancer Foundation. My beautiful auntie was diagnosed when I was younger. Thankfully, she's 10 years in remission now, but it's a very close cause to my heart. And we've, I think, donated over $250,000 to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. And I think through that conversation and through even just having that awareness, we've had a lot of breast cancer patients use our product to help with their skin health during such harsh treatments. Wow. So that, just... I think those like moments, like obviously there's others from like, helping heal stretch marks and acne and, perioral dermatitis and eczema, like all those other common skin, but these big ones. And I never disregard the little ones because I would say a little one and it impacted my life quite substantially. But I think when you've been dealt a card that you would never choose to have, and then we can be the bright in the darkness, I think that, never gets old.
Was that the intent with the color, yellow? Like it's happiness, it's joy.
Sunshine in a bottle.
Love that. Love that. So good. Talk to me about the launch. You mentioned as you were kind of going through the formulation stage, you started posting on Instagram, creating this community, started to initially post like the quotes and some kind of interesting things like nicely graphic design images, etc. Like, what was the plan through that? And if you were to kind of redo that again today, how would you do that differently to build a community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the moment that you know what your business name is and you check on social media to see if it's available.
It's not trademarked.
And you're all good to go.
Yeah.
Start putting it out there. Start building a community from the start, whether it's, talking about what you're doing from the get-go or whether it's kind of looking at, okay, if I'm the consumer, if I'm the demo, what would I be engaged with? Because it's so different. Like, we sometimes we merge sensory with our product. So we could do like piping a cake and it's the same shade as one of our gloss balms, and we put the cake first and then it goes into the gloss balm and we get like 500,000 views on a reel.
Wow.
So it's like you don't have to take the very like structured and strict approach of this is my product, this is the benefits and features. Like that's not immersive at the beginning, let alone probably ever. It's good to blend in, but I think it's all about letting people know who you are, founder-led content, showing up. I think that's probably, for me, when I started on Instagram, I followed what people were gravitated to, and that was quotes, feeling a sense of belonging, motivation, beautiful aesthetic imagery, and then I could build that up to then start to talk on stories about what I was creating, what was the brand, what was the purpose, Then when we get closer to launch, I could share the packaging. Like I was doing founder-led content before it was a thing, but not as intent as what I would do now. I would not even, I was Instagram first because that was the platform that was there.
Of course.
I would be TikTok first.
Yeah.
If I was to start another brand today, I would get on TikTok. I would take my customers through the community or anyone following me or not even following me because on TikTok it's all discovery.
It's crazy, yeah.
And literally show up and share the journey, share the scrappy, share the unperfect, share the challenges, share the wins, share everything. The people that are crushing are literally sharing from the moment they receive their first sample to their first order to the growth, everything. And I think that's the way that I would go. And then obviously when you start, when you launch, you start to get people talking about your product or brand, reshare it. Do green screens, like, oh my God, this person just posted and they love it. And yeah, I would definitely take that approach.
What if I'm scared? I'm like, I'm like scared to get in front of the camera. And I'm like, Priscilla, you sound like you just got it all together. No. You talk incredibly eloquently. Wow, you're so confident. How could you help me overcome my fear of speaking?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because even now I get prompted like with the team. Like my content creator will be like, Priscilla, got to do content. I was like, okay. And I might not have washed my hair that day. You just think, oh my God, I don't look the best. But you know what? You've got to let all that go. Some of the best performing content that we have is me not looking my best and probably not even sounding like my best. I could be coming down with something like a flu. I could be, so tired. But I think it's just showing up authentically for yourself and not being scared of, the phone in front of you. I think you have to think about if that phone wasn't there and you're just talking to a friend about your product, you would want to share. You want to let people know about your brand. So I think the technology of it, the phone aspect, is what petrifies people.
So true.
More than actually talking about the brand, because talking about the brand is the only way that you're going to get it out there. And so you wouldn't really second guess talking to someone being like, oh, hey, I'm this and I've got a brand, or hey, you've got you're at an event. You're like, what's your brand? You're gonna you're gonna share. So I think if you feel uncomfortable, that's a good thing. It means that you care, and I think that will subside. If you did one video today and came back in a month's time, I promise you, you will have grown so much in that month. And it's just, habit and building that, keep going. Like the more you do it, the better that you get at it.
I had this horrible piece of advice when I first started shooting. I've never even shared this. When I first started shooting like any form of like face to camera content, and these two kind of like freelancers that I was working with, they were like, you should speak into the camera as if you're speaking to 10,000 people. And so,
like almost yelling.
Like the opposite of what would be intimate conversation. And so like I look back now and my videos are like preaching to I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. It's like the exact opposite of what you should do. Fascinating. Switching gears a little bit, thinking about what you mentioned also around the agency. So you said you started like, outsourcing agencies, and you had this situation where you were almost like strong-armed into paying them tens of thousands of dollars for their agency fees per month. What would you say the biggest lessons are from that you think founders need to know?
I think the biggest lesson is you need to remind yourself that you are an expert in your own business. And it's not to say that you know it all, but in terms of the direction or what you're willing to spend or what you should understand about the fundamentals of, okay, just say it's Meta ads or just say it's, Google or whatever it is that's taking your money, you should have a really good understanding. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to have a good understanding that you can speak the same lingo as agencies, and you can catch them out if they're not doing what you're paying them to do. And I think that's what I learned the hard way. I was too busy to have a good understanding of that world, and quite frankly, probably petrified of looking into a Meta account and going, oh my God, this is like a different language to me. So I shied away and I ignored it, and I just trusted the people that I hired. And in the end, I think I gave them too much leniency and control, and I was not clear on the understanding of what they were doing. And in the end, it was obviously smokescreen. Yep, analytics look great, but that's not paying the bills, and that's not getting the growth, and that's not even helping you become profitable. So I think definitely understanding your numbers, your benchmarks, what you're willing to spend for a first-time customer, for example, and really understand the fundamentals of each platform that you're working, or that you're paying for. Yeah.
What if you were to go back again through that process? Would you use external agencies? Would you immediately go in house and upskill around that? Like, how would you approach that?
I think everyone's time poor, especially if you run extremely lean. I think you need to be the champion of your own content, number one, and then I think you need to have a really good understanding around Meta. I think as well too, when you're starting out, that's probably like the perfect place to start. You've got nothing to lose. Like you go in there, you look at the platform, there's heaps of YouTube content, there's heaps of courses out there. You go in, you can start plugging and playing in there, spend $5 a day if you want.
Correct.
Like you can just learn the platform. Yep. And then as you're scaling up and your content is performing, whether you feel you have the time to do that, which again, if you're the closest to the money, you want to focus on that task. Yeah. So whether you outsource other things to prioritize that, or whether you go, you know what, I've got a really good understanding that I can align with an agency or a freelance person in that space, that I'll be able to challenge them. I'll be able to set parameters. I'll be able to know that they're I can go in the account anytime and I know if they're performing or I know if they're not. And then you can obviously make decisions based off that. But that would be my approach, not just go, oh my God, okay, we're getting really great momentum. I want to monetize now. Let's just get an agency and hope to God that they just do the right thing. And then be that's it. Just pay their retainer and and as long as money was coming in, I was okay. But then was it profitable? I don't know how much they're spending to make. I was just seeing what was coming in. So, yeah.
I had this agency I was using for some time, and I said this, I was at the Hormozy event 2 weeks ago or something, and they said something really interesting in terms of we don't speak about things that we can't control. And I was like, I really liked that because I've had so many instances where I'd be working with like one of the agency reps and he'd be on the call and I'd be like, performance is down. What are we doing about it? And it's like, yeah, Meta's just a week. There's not much we can do. And I'm like, so I just need to put my business on hold and I'll just hang out here and just wait until Meta begins to make me money again.
Oh my, no.
Oh my God.
No, that is a cop-out answer. I think the world of Meta is so different. I said yesterday that the triangle, the pyramid, back in the day, the spend and the structure of a Meta account was the highest priority.
Correct.
Now it's content.
Yeah.
If something's not working, look at your content. You can look at your structure, but 90% of the time, your content is going to tell you if you're spending huge amounts on, cost per acquisition, or if you're, overspending on a certain ad. Be resilient. And I think that's the thing. Be resilient, but be reactive. I think that's the thing that we've learned the most. If something's not performing, cut it loose. Don't you can give it time to learn, but if it's still not cut it loose.
What's the time frame that you run usually? I mean, obviously you're not in the Meta account yourself, but you have some quick little takeaways that you think your husband might be able to share, Jake, in terms of
of course. I'm definitely in it and I'm across it in terms of creative. Obviously, we put it through our learning campaigns and we see within the first couple of days if that's going to kind of have a bit of a uplift or if it's going the other way. The ones that we have an uplift, we start pushing it into all different, Advantage Plus or different ad campaigns. And the ones that are just lagging, we cut because it's taking budget that we don't need. Yeah. And so I think just being really reactive to trialing new content, doubling down on content, iterating on content that really is working. Really cutting loose the ones that don't.
I think I was saying it also over the weekend. I think a lot of the time people lose much more money than they need to because they're like, I hope that, I'm just going to leave it for another week. Let me just see if it's going to turn around. And it's like, just kill the thing.
Yeah, kill the thing and focus on the things that are working. In your account, if you've got just say even 10 ads, and 50% of them are doing pretty well and you got 10% that are crushing, focus your energy on the 10% that's crushing. Like ask yourself, okay, is there any other iterations that we can try? Is there any other style of content that does really well? You can look at TikTok as an example. 90% of the time, TikTok creators, not so much brand, I would say, but TikTok creators post the same things because the virality of that content is what they're trying to chase. Yeah. They're just trying to create viral content. And so you will see people wearing the same clothing, the same face to camera, and you think, oh my God, when you look at their feed, it looks all the same. But inside the videos, there's iterations and tweaks and they can have millions and millions of followers. So, I definitely look at that and go, okay, there's something there. It's always chasing that viral, scalable piece of content.
Do you want to take some content as well if you haven't already? Okay, cool. One question that I have in terms of like I listen to your, I feel like your skill set is so well rounded. You've got the creative brilliance in terms of how you've designed the aesthetic of your brand, in terms of the detail orientation around knowing numbers. You know what I mean? You've come from this corporate background, so you have a grip on the finances, I imagine. Which of those, were there some skills for you that were hard to learn? Because I listen to you communicate, you talk about the ads, you talk about the content, you talk about your product development, and then you're talking about finances. And I'm like, this chick seems like she's got it all together. Which were the hardest ones for you to really get a grip of?
Yeah, well, thank you. But that was definitely a long time in the making. I definitely did not know a lot of things. I think for me, creative, I was always a creative person, even when I was young, but I also had the analytical brain as well. So I think that's where corporate, the analytical side and the structure, routine and, getting things done, that came really naturally to me, but I was missing my creative flair because I couldn't really, I had to think creatively at times, but not to the extent that I do now. So it was hard because the achievements and the fulfillment that I got from that in my corporate career was great, but the lack of creativity and intentional, purpose-driven, strategies and tasks and things like that were just not there for me. And so creative, I was always quite strong, communication and talking to people. So I think the world of manufacturing and learning, I was very open to learning. And I think that's the best way to be. I think people appreciate when you go into other people's worlds. If you're willing to just learn and hear them out, which is the best thing because then you take little nuggets along the way and you're like, oh, well, that's an understanding that I had not known before. And now I understand when things happen, I'm thinking like them and I can then challenge them as well. So I had to learn. I think the digital side was probably the biggest thing that I had to learn. Like, even understanding Shopify, like, that was just, I think, platforms, to be honest. I think like creative product communication with suppliers and people and customers, that was easy for me.
Right, I understand.
But the platforms like email marketing, we were at MailChimp. I had to learn, okay, what the hell's MailChimp? Shopify, the Meta platform, like, it was the platform side of e-commerce and selling online that was actually quite challenging at the very beginning. And I think it's just with anything, like even at school, you're in a classroom, you're asking questions or you don't really understand, then you've got homework, and you've got to figure it out. So it's like, I think it's just a willingness to figure it out. And that's what I wish I had done. Even as time poor as I was, I just wish I had that awareness. Yeah.
One thing I'm super interested in is, so you mentioned at one point you guys had a team of, I think it was like 7 to 10 people, and then you had to do some cuts in the team. Then you went back to just yourself and your husband, and went back to 2 people. Talk to me about that, because like I look at that and I'm like, that's pretty scary. You know what I mean? I'm like, are we going to be able to sustain the business's growth? Do we even have enough hours in the day, hands on our body to be able to do all the things required to continue the business? So what happened initially in that situation that you had to cut those people loose? And then how did you actually manage that, like from a logistics level, to actually keep the business alive?
Yeah, great question. It was hard. Like, we grew quite a bit during COVID and needed to hire people to service that growth. So I think in terms of the interview process and the onboarding, I wasn't really a part of it.
Got it.
Because I just didn't have the time. So I did entrust others to support me on that. And so I think then once you kind of come out of this big rush of COVID and things start to stabilize, you start to see things very clearly.
Yeah.
And I think for me, there was just like a misalignment. And for what we needed them, they were great. But then I think towards the back end, it just wasn't the alignment. To the point where I felt like I didn't feel comfortable going into my own workplace.
Exactly what you mean.
So that was challenging. And so I think we just had to make some really big decisions to ensure that we could proceed with the business in the way that I felt was the most aligned to me, because no one's going to care about my business as much as me. No one's going to go through the heartaches and the stresses and the uncertainties as much as me. Yeah. So I want to enjoy going into my business. I didn't start a business to be scared of it and to not feel comfortable in it. So I had to make some pretty big decisions. And by doing that, we within, I'll say a month or so, and it was also around the time I was getting married and going on my honeymoon. So it was a lot. And we were launching Sephora. It was a lot. So we just made a call, and from that we were able to kind of restructure the whole business, and we just kept on our pack girls, which they've been our ride or die for 5 years, and we love them dearly. Wow. And they had our backs, and they were like, okay. They said to us, Priscilla, just you focus on the business. We've got everything downstairs. We've got the customers. We've got the packing. Whatever you need, we've got you.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. And so from then, me and Jake literally just joined forces, and we were like, okay, what is the most important thing? And that is servicing our customer. So I was customer care. I was social media.
And how big is the company at this stage?
We were probably turning over maybe 8 million a year.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
And then so you became the customer care girl.
Yep.
And a whole bunch of other duties. You just wrapped it up and did the whole thing.
So we did. I was customer care. I was social media. I worked with all the suppliers. I did stock. Like with Jake, we did stock, but I was still talking to our manufacturers. And then obviously Jake was really helping with all the platforms. So he started to understand a little bit more about Meta, making sure all of our integrations were good. Like he had to do all the Sephora portal onboarding. That was mammoth.
God.
So I was doing the creative and getting us set up visually, and he was doing all the back end. Like he had to plug in all the products. He had to work with their onboarding teams. So we just divided and conquered. And so we were on our honeymoon, and our 2 graphic designers that were helping me with Sephora and the launch, 2 days into my honeymoon, they resigned. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? It was the last of that restructure that needed to happen.
Those were the last 2 people?
That needed to happen, but it was not great timing.
Yeah.
So I just thankfully had a really amazing community that I could go out to. And one of my gorgeous female founder friends, I just said, hey, I'm desperate for a freelance graphic designer.
Yeah.
And she pointed me into it in the right direction, and I was able to get an amazing freelance graphic designer who I'm still really close with today. And yeah, she saved us from a Sephora, because we had House of Sephora, we had the Sephora launch, and no one would ever have known. No one would ever, like, it wouldn't, like, I talk about it now and people are like, what do you mean you did that? You launched on your own?
Undetectable.
We just made sure that we showed up the best that we could with what we had, and I was super proud of the launch that we had with Sephora. It was just a mammoth time. Like, I think to myself now, how the hell did I get through that all? But again, like, the deep love that you have, and as long as our customers were satisfied and they were none the wiser, we could figure it out. Like, because like, their orders were still going out within record time. Customers were getting responded to. And you know what? It got me really close to the customer during that time, because I did customer care for a year at the start. You know, I did everything. So going back to customer care as we were, you know, a higher, like, we were in our growth trajectory, and we obviously had grown so much since launch. It was really amazing. Like, we got, like, great feedback, and the constructive ones were really insightful. And I think just me and Jake doing a lot of the work at that time, we realized the stuff that we did need and the stuff that we didn't need. And so after 6 months, Jake was like, Priscilla.
So you guys ran that structure for 6 months?
6 months.
Oh my God.
In that 6 months, we actually grew the business as well and launched in Sephora. I don't know, it might have been because we got really niched and we got really strategic and clear on our directives and, like, what we were putting our energy to, that could have helped the business
grow. It's like the forced constraint. You've only got certain time, so you must do the most important things.
I think so. And I think that helped, but also maybe the universe being like, you've made the right decision. And so when that happened, it, like, the business kind of, like, just went up a notch, and we're just like, we didn't really do anything. And so I think just all the puzzle pieces finally fit. And then, Jake was like, I love you, but this is not sustainable. We need to hire again.
How many hours were you working, the two of you?
We were doing, like, long days, maybe like 6:30, 7 a.m. and probably weren't wrapping up until 9, 10 p.m. Yeah. And then still even doing emails, like, I wasn't sleeping until 2 in the morning. But I think for me, I've always been built that way. Like, I am a bit of a night owl as well. So I've always been built to kind of run big days. But it definitely tested us and our relationship, because it was just us and we were in a pressure cooker, but it made us stronger. And that we could, you know, conquer everything. And so, after 6 months, Jake was like, we've got to do something. And I was petrified.
To rehire someone again?
Petrified.
Yeah, wow.
Because I was already petrified at the start, because my mum had businesses that unfortunately they were very successful, but then when my auntie got breast cancer, my mum had to restructure, because my auntie was the heartbeat of that business. And so my mum worked on the business, my auntie worked in the business. And so when that structure had to change, the reliance on staff made them, you know, not survive. And so for me, I was like, I'm never hiring staff from that moment, because we lost everything. Yeah.
Wow. So you were terrified to bring people in, to pay
originally,
people?
Yeah.
Wow. And then so what, like, I imagine there was some pretty substantial lessons in that, in terms of, like, I love the idea of, like, give up ground begrudgingly. Like, you've won back all this ground when you let go of those people, and you've got all this extra margin in your business, but you've sacrificed all the time. So how did you go about kind of, like, little bit by little bit, hire one person, evaluate, you know, micromanage? Like, how did that go from that point forward? Yeah,
and I think because I'm not a micromanager, I'm too busy to be a micromanager. So that also comes with a lot of trust, because, you know, and so at the time when we kind of put it out there, we were like, all right, Jake finally got me on side, and I was like, okay, yes, I know I need to hire someone. A friend, like my best friend's sister, actually threw her hat in the ring, and I was always no family, no friends.
Yeah.
I was very strict, no family, no friends. That was just the way it was. And I went in depth conversations with Jake to be like, oh my goodness, what do we do? Because, you know, I don't want to ever, and because my best friend, I know her family, like her sister was always younger, so we weren't really that close. Like, so it wasn't like I was hiring my best friend. I think that would have been a bit too far, but we know the family and they're like my second family. So I was very honest with her at the time as well. But I was like, Jake, what do we do? Like, is this too close to home? And Jake's like, well, we know where she's from. Like, we trust the family. We trust her.
Right.
You know, you're not going to have to build trust from a random coming in and hoping they're going to do right by you. You know, she's going to have your back, and she's also thrown her hat in the ring, so she's got something to prove.
True.
And I was like, you know what? That's so true. And so, yeah, that was 2 years ago. She's still with us, and best decision we ever made. And yeah, she really helped me rebuild the trust within people. And working with her, I felt seen, and I felt like I could move. I could forget what had happened, and I can, you know, rebuild what that looks like. And then, yeah, we just gradually from there, after maybe it was a couple months actually, then we hired our next graphic designer. And then after a year after that, we hired our next one. So it was very gradual and very methodical based on the business and what was needed for the business growth. But I think that's why I'm very protective of who comes in the business, because I'm also protecting the people that we do have for the culture that we've rebuilt.
Yeah.
But also for what I can manage without having to bring in a general manager or big manager to manage everyone. So yeah, I'm really proud how we've overcome those hurdles, and now I've got such an incredible team that I couldn't be prouder of. And yeah, we're on the way to striving our biggest goals that we can think of, because everyone believes in the vision. Everyone's on the same path.
What's the I'm just curious, the weighting that you put, because one thing that I find that founders sometimes do is they will hire roles and they'll invest too much money into roles that don't really make too much of an impact on revenue or any, you know, marketing kind of. There's no real impact to anything. Maybe it's like overhiring for like somebody to manage inventory. Maybe it's overhiring for someone to do like, you know, customer service that's like, I don't know, onshore versus offshore. People like that, where it's like you're incurring all these costs and they don't do anything for growth. And so then you just create all this debt in the company. I've noticed you mentioned graphic designers multiple series of times. Like, how do you think about like hiring in terms of like, we need this type of person because they're going to do this?
Very good question. I think for me, why we stay so lean is because I am so focused on the output of that person's work and the contribution to the actual growth of the business. And so what I realized is that Bangn Body is a very visually led company. We're very visual in everything we do. Our words are through imagery. Our words are through visual communication. Yeah. And so once I learned that, once I lent into that, the business grew. Yeah. And so that's why for me, I also like to have coverage. So graphic design, that's also something that I can't do. Yes, I can do Canva, but it's not to the level of quality that I want. So I'm hiring for things that I can't also do and know that it's going to be the heartbeat of the brand. If we're not visually communicating who we are, we're not communicating. And so words can only say so much. And so that's why I guess very strategic in that respect. We had someone who was doing content and customer care, and I pretty much said, you know, we need to split this role because content is a big play for us. Again, visual communication. Sure. So I just said, which way do you want to go? And she's like, well, I think I've done customer care for a long time. So I would love to lean into creative. And she was doing that on the side. Nice. So it's been amazing to see her journey in growth of that. And then we decided at that point, actually I got an email from a VA in the Philippines in customer, like she supports brands overseas, customer care. And I was always weary about overseas. Like, I don't know, I had a lot of founder friends. They were like, oh my God, we've got 10 of them. They're amazing. And I didn't question that, but I just think, I'm very personable. I'm like, how do I work with someone who's so close to the customer, who's so far away?
That doesn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And this person reached out at a time that we did need the extra support. And so I was like, you know what? And normally they would just go into a folder and I might get to them one day. But I actually said, oh my God, okay, I'm going to jump on a Zoom and just see. Wow. Yeah. Jumped on a Zoom, very well spoken, had worked in e-commerce brands for the US mainly, knew Shopify, knew Starship It, knew all the platforms. And so we were like, okay, we had all the drafts, we had all the like common questions and responses. And then I was able to work closely with her and also the previous customer care girl. And so now she's an absolute weapon and she works so hard. She works around the clock. Wow. She works on weekends. And I think through that as well, we also get more sales because at times where our in-house team finishes on Friday and doesn't start again till Monday, there's customer care inquiries. So now that she's happy to work on the weekends and the hours that she feels most comfortable. But they're additional sales that we probably wouldn't have gotten if the customers didn't get their questions answered.
I understand what you mean.
She's been amazing.
That's incredible. What excites you the most in terms of like the future of Bangn? Like, what are you like super pumped? You got a big smile right now.
I am
like,
so excited. Products that we've had in the works for like 3+ years that have been a huge demand and a request from our customers. So that's super exciting. That we're on the trajectory to launch these products in the next year or so. International, I think we're really leaning into what it looks like for us to actually go into a new geo and be intentful about it, be purposeful about it, because we've really just heroed the Australian and New Zealand landscape for the past 6 years, which I'm happy. I think, slow and steady in that respect. Invest where your resources allows you, and also for the intention of why you want to do things. So super excited for that pathway. And more like community in-person events. I think we've always done that. I think after within the first year of the brand, maybe going into the start of the second year, we did a huge Galentine's Day event. It was ticketed. We had over 700 people at this event, and it was Moonlight Cinemas in Melbourne. It was the most incredible thing. And so we always set that expectation very early on that we were a community brand. And so I think just getting out there, doing more events, alongside a lot of the newness that we've got coming up, we're super excited for as well.
What, on a personal level, what do you think, or who do you think Priscilla's going to need to become to achieve these things? Like, how do you think you're going to be challenged? Who do you think you're going to need to grow into as a founder, as an entrepreneur, to be able to facilitate that growth?
I think letting go, delegation and trusting in the people that I have around me, but creating a pathway where I feel comfortable to allow that to happen. I think when you just go, okay, I've got to just surrender and just let it happen, I don't think that's the right approach. I think it's surrender with intention and knowing what's around you to support you as you grow. And so I think the biggest lessons for me is going to be just, keep communicating, but also letting go and still being really strict on the intention and the pathways for growth, and not try to do everything all at once, because again, for the number of resources that we have, I'm very mindful of that. But I think also not fearing expansion to get support in the business, because, it's a work in progress.
I'm pumped. I'm super excited after, some conversations that we've had. I'm super, super, super excited to see what you do with the company, and also just hearing more and more and more of your story. I'm pumped to connect over the coming years and hear the lessons and the honesty that you'll continue bringing to your community, because you're super inspiring, and I love hearing your story. And I think it's very, very interesting how well you can kind of articulate with such detail all the precise, specific things that happened, with such emotion behind it. And so I'm really, really excited to see what you do with the brand, and also how you can continue leveling up as an entrepreneur. It's an amazing story you've got. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so kind. I've loved chatting with you. Yeah, this has been awesome.
Thanks so much. Very cool.